Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pail, steel toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure.
Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jaylen.
Can I close it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
All right. It's busy in the back. It's okay. We don't need to roll it through. This is an emergency.
There it is.
There it is. I knew he was going to come through. Yeah. Emergency garden report. Emergency garden report. We don't do many of these. Only during emergency situations. This is a good emergency, though, Bob.
We used to have these every other day. Now they're pretty rare.
This is more like an off-season situation, emergency type show. But Woj bomb this evening, casual Wednesday night evening Woj bomb in the New England area. Jrue Holiday has agreed to a 4-year, $135 million extension with the Celtics. There's some people probably asking, what's it mean? Well, so Holiday had a 4th-year player option. He is going to void that. So essentially, adding 3 additional years onto what he could have had with the Celtics team. Going to take a little bit of a pay cut up front, which is going to help Wick's pocket a little bit, but also is going to allow the Celtics. And we'll get into it, Bobby. And you're the cap guy here. Don't let me say a bunch of wrong stuff, because I will if you let me. But I think it's going to allow the Celtics to do some other things with other players on this team that may be due for contracts as well. So I wouldn't say, for some people out there thinking, oh, they just extended Holiday, that means White's gone, or that means Brown's gone, or that means, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean those things. The Celtics, obviously, and Jrue Holiday, obviously, have enjoyed the relationship thus far. Holiday's having a great season from that 3-point line. I think he's hitting historically well from the corner 3, over 60%. Obviously, the points have fallen off a little bit with his role being reduced in that sense, but still an elite defender in this league. And obviously signing a fat contract here for $135 million for a guy who is how old now, Bobby? Is he 33?
Yes.
So
34.
that's where you're going to start to see
33,
some people.
Yeah.
So that's where he's going to start to see some people questioning whether or not this is a good move. I'm going to just throw it to you, Bobby. First impressions. You saw the tweet come through. First reaction, impressions, and now that you've had a few minutes to think about it, where are you kind of going with this thing?
I think he wins this, and we expected this, Jimmy. We had this conversation once he became extension eligible. He wasn't going to take a hometown.
I had to tell you that. I said he's not taking a discount.
Yeah, and I learned that from the Horford stuff.
Mm-hmm.
These guys aren't taking discounts. He got his value here, and he probably would have taken this to free agency, pushed for it, probably had a pull and tug at that point, and you would have had a risk losing him to keep him at a lower rate.
In
this case, Celtics do score a little bit of a win on the front end, though. They're going to save some money versus what he would have been paid even on that player option at 37. Bobby Marks is reporting that it's going to start around 30 next year. Since there's no player option now, he's declined that. You decline all the old bonuses in this deal from the Bucks that he carried over from over there. So those don't exist anymore. Those count toward your apron status, whether you're getting those bonuses or not. So the Celtics are going to hover around the apron line next year. So they could potentially get under it if they want to. Kick back those penalties a year that come from being in 3 out of 4 years or whatever the exact number is there. So this gives them a huge advantage in the near term in terms of keeping this roster together. Now, in exchange for that, Holiday at age 36, 37, is going to be making close to $40 million each of those years. So that's what he gets in exchange. There's also a 4th-year player option on here per Adam Himmelsbach. So he gets that flexibility as well. That's, of course, always a win for the player.
Sure.
And I think it's just, I don't know if I'd call it a fair deal, Jimmy. Again, I don't know if you love paying him in those seasons, but you're so focused on now and keeping this roster together and keeping this run rolling beyond this year that it's probably worth whatever pain comes in those years to keep him here now, to keep this whole core here now, assuming you keep Derrick White. That,
Right.
what we've
We don't
always
like to
said,
assume on this show, though.
right?
We do often.
And I think after the year he had, it's going to be difficult to extend him. He's limited in what he can make in an extension, starting at $27 million. So Derrick White could conceivably go to free agency if he wants to get max value, which he should. I mean, he's never had a big payday in his career. Again, you're not going to assume Derrick White's going to give you a break here. So I'm going to hit pause on this. I want to see
You're
the full.
not. He's not going to give you a break. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah, and so I'm hitting pause on this. I like this deal. I don't love it.
What's the White situation? For those
He's
who don't know,
eligible again this
including
summer.
me. He's what?
He's extension eligible again this summer because he
Right.
has one season left on his deal. So he's back next year at a pretty low price. I don't have it right in front of me.
But
You
if you're
can
Derrick
only
White,
you can only sign him starting at $27 million a year max. That would obviously go to like 30 in year 2, 33 in year 3, 35 in year 4. That's a little low for a guy who's borderline defensive player of the year, 40% three-point shooter. He's a $35-40 million a
let's
year
slow down
guy
a little
with
bit.
no
Slow
cap.
down a little bit on defensive. Slow down on defensive player of the year. But to your
Or all
point,
defense, whatever you want to call it.
what would be a reason that Derrick White would sign an extension this offseason? What would be a reason for Derrick White to do it?
He just wants to stay here that much. Or the
But he can
security
still
of,
stay here. He's still going to stay here. He's
yeah.
under contract.
Yeah.
So
I
what would
mean,
be an actual reason?
probably to
If you were Derrick White's agent, accountant, family member, anybody close to Derrick White, what would be one reason for Derrick White to say, I'm going to sign it now and not wait until I can make even more money a year from now? Is it just security? Just the chance that maybe he blows an ACL or something?
Yeah, bank $120 million or whatever it's going to be at age 30. And, for a guy who hasn't made a ton of money in his career, he's made a good amount of money by NBA standards, but not a ton. You're guaranteeing yourself 100 million plus at that point. But you're passing up, let's say, upwards of almost 200 million. Could you almost double that in free agency? So that's the question here. As far as I know, I don't.
In the world? I'm just reading
what?
the comments here. I think Amit's hacking our comments.
I don't think the max for White was on the table this last summer. And that makes sense, right? You're 2 years out. There's not a huge urgency to get it done. And White had one great year at that point. So you want to see if he repeats it.
I knew it was Chelsea on the freaking chat. Go on.
So I don't think either side moved with urgency to get a deal done last summer when White could.
Right.
This summer,
this was a prove it year, right? Kind of maybe.
Yeah, for him and for the team.
Right.
Again, he's 30. He's not 25. So you're looking to see, is he healthy this whole year? Does he repeat what he did? And he obviously exceeded what he did the year before. So that's risk reward, right, Jimmy? Because who knows if you offer the max then, and I should probably pull up what that number was, but it starts at 27, but just say it's like $30 million a year average. At that point, you would love that looking back on it because that's a low number relative to what he's bringing you. And you have him here for 4 years guaranteed beyond next year. So 5 full years. Now he has done so well, Jimmy, that if you're White, like you just posed, and you're his agent, you probably want to go to free agency, right? Or do you?
Yes,
did you do
yes,
so great this year that you just want to lock up that full max extension.
I think if you're Derrick White, you obviously trust yourself and your ability to continue contributing to a team that's not going anywhere. They're going to be the number one, probably, primetime TV team next year, 1 or 2, right? I mean, there's not a lot of other teams that are going to be up there with them. He's just in the starting lineup. They're going to win a ton of games next season. You have every reason to believe that they'll be top 1 to 3 favorite to win the title next year. Before, we can say that right now before we even start the season. So for Derrick White, he's not concerned about falling off or falling out of the spotlight, and he doesn't think, nor should he, that this is just a flash in the pan situation. Also, Derrick White, as you mentioned, hasn't cashed in the way Jrue Holiday's cashed in multiple times in his career. This is Jrue Holiday's second 4-year, $135 million contract. He just went back to back on everybody. So if you're Derrick White, you're not, this is probably your last chance to really cash in. 34-year-old, 35-year-old Derrick White is not going to land, most likely not going to be landing a $135 million contract. Now, maybe he does, because who knows, the cap blows out of proportion.
So his
I shouldn't say that.
His max extension right now, if he signs it this summer, is 4 years, 123.
Right.
It's a lot.
It's a ton of money for us regular people, but if you're Derrick White, you bet on yourself and you want to try to maximize as much money as you can make in your career, because when he does sign his next contract, if it's this year or next year, it's probably last big contract, assuming, the way things go for these guys, right? I mean, that's your hang up with Jrue Holiday, is that a lot of guys aren't signing huge deals at this age of their career. In fact, I think Woj tweeted, the only players who have signed for this much at this age is LeBron. I'm already forgetting who it was.
This is a monster contract for a 33-year-old.
Right. So LeBron was one. I might as well list the other 3 since I just brought it up. LeBron, Steph Curry, and your good friend Al Horford are the only players who have signed for more than $100 million at age 33 or older.
And so the
Horford
Horford contract,
$100 million mark.
The Horford contract's a good comparison, right? Because in the wrong situation, where he's a second option, third option, doing what he was doing with the Bucks, this could end up looking pretty shaky. In a situation where you're committing to pay as much money as possible, keep this core together, pay the tax, and he's the 5th option like he is right now, this will work. At least for the first 2 years, I think, Jimmy. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay efficient in that role.
Right.
And he's got to still be that dynamic all-defense defender that he's been for however long now. If he does all that, I think he's worth this money, even if it looks bad in year 3 or 4. And it's almost inevitably going to.
I mean, that's what happens, Bobby. You sign these big deals. It happens in baseball all the time, right? But you got to do what you got to do to get these players. The Celtics are basically saying, Wicks and Brad are saying, we didn't come this far just to come this far.
Right.
We didn't want to make this a one and done effort here, right? So Tess nails it. Pay everyone. We just want multiple championships out of this run. By locking up Holiday, you've got everybody locked up now through the next couple years, right? By everybody, I mean the top 7 guys, let's call it, right?
Yeah, Horford signed 1 more year. White signed 1 more year.
Through next year. Okay, yep. So through next year. Horford, who knows how that's going to go? Maybe, he's obviously at a different point in his career. Maybe he's somebody, Bobby, if you want to talk about a hometown here or there, maybe depending on how things go, maybe that's a candidate. Derrick White's going to get his, but by signing this contract, I got the hard hat here, Bob. A lot of people want me to put this on right now. I would give this hard hat today, if he was sitting next to me right now, I would put this hard hat on Brad Stevens' head. I'd put this hard hat on Wick Grousbeck's head, because these guys.
Did we ever imagine Wick would be doing this?
Wick woke up this morning. He didn't put on the dress shoes, Bobby. He put on the steel toe boots. He put on the hard hat. He got down in the nitty gritty. He sat down with Jrue Holiday. They went to war with Glushan, his agent, and they all came out.
The money is just pouring on his head, huh?
Glushan showed up with the gloves on, ready to work. And they were hammering away at a deal all day today. And when the dust settled, Jrue Holiday got what he wanted. And I think the Celtics got what they wanted, which is a player who's still an elite defender, a player who is still shooting the lights out from three-point range. And they can say for the next couple seasons now, they can expect to get that type of player out of Jrue Holiday. They can expect to pair him with, the rest of these guys that are in their starting lineup. This isn't just a one-time, let's swing for the fences, and if we strike out, we're going to start from scratch again. Wick is showing that he's willing to spend. Brad showing that he's able to make big decisions, big deals, big trades, big signings. And if you're a Boston sports fan right now, there's one team that you can't hate on, and it's the Boston Celtics. The Patriots, we can go on for days about them. Red Sox, we can go on for weeks about them. The Bruins, they're going through a little bit of something right now, but they're winning, so that's a whole, we'll let that slide. But the Celtics are showing that they're willing to do what it takes to put a winning product out there and to win a championship. So this is another example of that. And they feel like Jrue Holiday, they have to pay a premium for it. That's the price you pay to compete for a championship every year, Bobby, or for the foreseeable future. That's what you got to pay. Because if you don't, fine, congratulations, you saved. You didn't sign the guy because he wanted $5 million more a year over the last 2 years of the contract. So
I don't think
did you really win there?
I don't think there's any doubt that.
Plus, they traded for him. They gave up key pieces. They gave up Rob Williams for him. They gave up pick. So for what? So that Wick could penny pinch at the end. I think the idea all along was that they were going to do what they had to do to extend this guy, right? And so they did. I think both sides are happy, and now they move on to the next player. If that's Derrick White in the offseason, well, great. Maybe they can come to some sort of agreement. It wouldn't be shocking, Bobby, if they were able to. I think, it really just depends on what they're – it would be surprised, but I don't – yeah, exactly. And so, but you give them this. They're doing what they can to allow themselves to at least be able to make moves and make decisions. And what does this mean for Jaylen Brown? We haven't even talked about that yet. Doesn't mean anything in the long run or in the short run because, he obviously has a huge contract attached to his name. Jason Tatum's due for a Supermax coming up here. So there are still a lot of moving pieces here. But I got to say, up to this point, through today, the Celtics and Brad Stevens and Wick are showing that they're willing to do what it takes. They believe in this core. They believe in this team up to this point, and they want to keep this band together. And if they can win a title or two, Bobby, let's say they can win 2 titles. You pay Jrue Holiday whatever the hell you want to pay Jrue Holiday. If that means the Celtics are in the driver's seat, right?
You're going to be winning or very close, very, very close.
Absolutely, you're keeping yourself. Wick's paying the tax to be a title contender is basically what this is. So I used to give Wick a bunch of crap. We need to start a GoFundMe. We need to do this. We need to pour all this stuff. And he just whipped it out and laid it on the table, Bobby, is what he's doing right now. And now maybe I'll have to maybe something changes in the offseason. I have no idea.
That's my thing, Timmy. I'm going to wait and see.
We can't predict, but we can only talk. We can only comment on what's happening today and whether or not we think it's a good move today. The Celtics could be eliminated in the first round of playoffs, knock on wood. Who the hell knows what this team's going to look like next year? But they obviously feel that Jrue Holiday is not going to be the reason they do or a problem, at least in the near future. So that we can all agree on.
Yes, and you feel good about that, at least for a year or two. And you need to keep him around for a year or two, and you're saving money now on that first year. So they compromised. I think Jrue got a lot here. I think the Celtics got some here too. Jrue probably got more than the Celtics did in this deal, but he can pay them back with great play.
Most players, Bobby?
Yeah.
It's a players' league now. I mean, they've basically made it so these players are cashing in left and right. I mean, it's very rare. I mean, you have to find a diamond in a rough situation in order for the team to make out. And then usually the player makes good on it when it's their time to make good on it. Like Derrick White, for example. You could say the Celtics are winning that one right now.
Yes.
So why would Derrick White be like, oh, you want to win again? Sure, you can win a second.
There's no chance. And so that's where I'm at, Jimmy. I like this deal. I don't love it. And
It's
the only reason
necessary, I would say, right?
the only reason I don't love it is because I don't know what's going to happen with White now. And you need to keep White.
But don't you think, maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but do you think that Brad and Wick, Zarin, whoever's involved in these conversations and decisions, you really think that they would agree to this deal if that meant see you later, Derrick White? I just can't. I mean, they see what we see and then some. There's just no way that they're making a deal like this if they think it's going to handcuff them in extending Derrick White. Unless they really truly have some analytical data and some statistics on drop off and things like that, where they think that Derrick White's not going to be part of the picture in 2 years, I would be surprised. Now, I'm not saying they're gonna, I don't know what the numbers, how the numbers play out. Maybe you can let us know in a year and a half, and if they feel like Derrick White is in that conversation. But I find it hard to believe that they made a decision today that's going to prevent them from signing another core player in a year or two.
You have time on White. I think that's why you do this, because you don't have time on
Right.
Holiday. He could have potentially been going to free agency this summer. Maybe there's one team out there that would have blown him away, and then all of a sudden you're in a really tough place. Because we looked at the teams that were out there this summer. There weren't many, but it only took one, right? Philadelphia, maybe Oklahoma City. We were looking at like Detroit. There weren't many, but there were some teams out there that could have blown away Holiday if they saw him as a piece that could have came in and changed some things. So you want to avoid that. I think that's always the bonus to getting this stuff done early. You mentioned it, Jimmy. Not perfect comparisons, but in some other sports, some teams in town have gotten screwed by waiting too long to get their guy their deal when they could have gotten at a lower number earlier, which I think is what probably happened here.
Or when they could have just forked it over, bite the bullet and fork it over. We're not in the business.
That's probably more what we're talking about here.
We're not in the business of making Wick money. We're not in the business of making John Henry money. That's not what fans are in the business for. That's not what, when an owner comes in, they have to make a decision. They obviously have business decisions to make.
He wants to win.
But if they're buying a team because they want to turn a profit and they want it to be a good investment, aside from the fact that I'm sure it's a good investment for just, selling the team at some point. But if you're looking at it as, I got to turn a profit this year, and you want to drop salary and you want to do this and you want to do that, get the hell out of town, man. That's not what this is about. This isn't your little, personal investment. This is a city's investment. This is a fan base's investment. Everyone's invested in this. So Wick is showing that the fan in him and the fact that, he understands what it takes and all that stuff. Now, I put this comment up for a reason, Bobby. LaShawn Walston. He says, still have tradable pieces like Pritchard, maybe Jaylen, if we don't win chip this season to get better. Complementary piece with Tatum only if it doesn't bring a championship. So we haven't even talked about this yet, but there is that, and people are going to say, oh, you're hating, blah, blah, blah. There is a big contract attached to Jaylen Brown right now. And if things don't go a certain way, or if they do go one way, and point being is they could make a move. They could say Derrick White has shown enough with us that we want to max him out. Or we want to keep him around. And we also think that he makes Jaylen Brown more expendable now. And that's why we signed Jrue Holiday, because either way, we feel comfortable with either one of those guys. So we'll make that decision when the time comes. Does that thought cross your mind, or do you think it crossed their mind?
Maybe in a disaster scenario. I don't think any scenario where you lose leads you to that. And we had that discussion already when they were looking to sign Jaylen. And all the options you were looking at there don't make sense. There's a bunch of pieces from Atlanta you could maybe look at, and I don't know, like a Thunder.
Right now you're talking right now, Bobby. But
yeah, right now.
We know how the offseason works.
Maybe something forms down the line that's more appealing.
It's not happening right now. So you can't really even go by what's available right now, right? Because they didn't do that.
Right. I don't see that becoming a consideration.
You're talking next year, 2 years. You're talking the next
No,
couple
I
of years,
think it's 3-4 years down the line. I think this front office, under Brad, at least, they're married to Jaylen. They weren't going to do Durant. They weren't going to do all the stuff we tossed around last summer, which wasn't great. They are married to, for all its faults, the upside of that Tatum Brown combination. And I know that combo drives us crazy in a lot of ways, but it also keeps them in the championship mix year in and year out. That's another risk here, is that in 3-4 years, it will probably be easier to move Jaylen's contract into other stuff than it is Holiday's or even White's at that point, if you extend him. And you're not moving Tatum by any means. So I think that's a conversation 3-4 years down the line as you're trying to build a roster through all these restrictions and guys who are going to leave.
3-4 years down the line. I mean, you're a lot has happened since
A lot has
in 3 to
happened.
4
Yeah.
years. So there's a much better picture of who this core is.
Let's be clear,
3 to 4
Jimmy.
years from now.
You might be screwed in 3-4 years in terms of building a roster. So you got to win.
You might be. I think you should assume that you might be.
You got to draft incredible, I think, to make it work. And develop is just starting to do a little bit more now, too. So this Cada stuff matters. This Walsh stuff matters. I mean, let's be real. Hauser's gone after next year. Cornette, if he gets anything over the minimum.
That's something you're willing to say now. Is that Hauser's gone after this?
If he can find anything beyond like the minimum on the open market or very low, which in Hauser's case he should. Cornette, I'm sure we'll have that debate this summer. But you got Tillman,
I'm sure we will.
the free agent, and Cada in the mix now. So, there's going to be some other decisions here that you have to figure out to keep this back end of the roster as low cost as possible and impactful. And credit to them on the Pritchard extension. I think that ends up looking like a really good move here. Not only if he's that bench piece he's been this year, but also if you want to move him into, let's say 2-3 players to fill out the bench at one point down the line. And he's signed for 4 years after this. So you have a lot of flexibility with Pritchard's contract going into the future here. But you know the deal, Jimmy. If you can't avoid the tax, or if you can't avoid the apron over the next 2 years, your picks are going to start getting kicked back to the back of the first round down the line. You can't trade multiple salaries for one, the way you did to get Holiday, the way you did to get Porzingis. Some other restrictions as well, like you can't use your mid-level exception anymore. So that's life for the Celtics now. They might be able to sneak under that this year, though, which I think
are they like the Warriors now? What's the comparable situation?
This is all new. So you're not Warriors level, you're not Clippers level. In fact, your tax bill here, as B-Rob wrote before we came on, you mentioned it. It takes a big. You save a lot there next year, because again,
I think B-Rob wrote $35 million. I think he said.
Yeah, Holiday was in the books with that player option for $37 million, and he's now $30 million next year. So in a tax environment, that's a big savings. When we talk about like what Jrue got here and what the Celtics got, they got some real flexibility tax-wise immediately and with the apron immediately. And again, I saw Mark's reporting, and I got to go crunch these numbers and stuff after this. You could sneak below that apron line next year if you want to kick back those penalties another year into the future. And you don't have to incur too much pain to do that, it seems like. So again, I got to go check all that. But
yeah, so Bobby Marks, who's a Cap front office insider at ESPN, he tweeted, "The benefit from the extension is that Boston eliminates $5.7 million of likely/unlikely bonuses that would have counted toward the first or second apron. Celtics now have wiggle room to get under the apron at the trade deadline if needed." So some apron talk for you, Bob, to get you excited. But I'm sure you'll have some more info on that later.
The importance there is if you do want to be a team 2 summers from now that can operate like it's below the apron. So make trades, sign a mid-level guy. Again, it's difficult because you're going to be so tight up against it at that point. But you could potentially do that. And again, Tatum's going to sign a Supermax extension this summer that'll go into effect in 25-26. So at that point, all bets are off. But, maybe some way you could sneak some extra flexibility 2 summers from now to try to build a roster here. Because again, Horford has 1 year left. White has 1 year left. You signed Porzingis for 2 extra years beyond this one, which is good. Brown's locked up for 5 years now. Holiday's locked up for 4. at this point. So, and Pritchard as well. So you know, you got your Brissetts, you got your Springer in there for one more year. Springer's actually a little expensive next year, so I'm gonna see and be interested to see how that.
4 million.
Yeah.
The
Walsh
hell?
is in the mix. You got a first round pick. Cater, you
Springer's
just
making twice as much as Hauser. Look at that. It's unbelievable.
Hauser's day's coming. He's gonna make a lot of money the way he's shooting.
You don't think Hauser will give the team a discount?
No, enjoy Hauser next year because
Yeah.
he's gonna get grant money.
But I mean,
yeah,
I mean, you look at that. If you're looking at the Bobby Marks graphic, you know, just look at the very top. Jaylen Brown, 49 million. You know, so
listen, you said it well, Jimmy. You could either be here sitting as we are saying, "Oh, like this is a lot of money," and blah blah blah, or you could be sitting there like the Patriots people are and the Red Sox people are, and saying you couldn't pay him X more to keep him here, and now you lost this amazing player. So you'd much rather be giving out bad money for a great player who's helping you a ton than nickel and diming a great guy trying to save a buck or two and then lose.
From a fan perspective, and I think sometimes we get so caught up in trying to be the front office, where it's like if you're just a fan of this team, yeah, you don't want to lose. You don't want the penalties of being too high over the cap to really start to become a detriment to your team's success in the future. But if you're talking about securing some really talented players and extending them and keeping them around so that you can contend for a title, it's not that complicated from a fan's perspective. You know what I mean? And if that means Wick has to dig deeper into his pockets, sell a few more bottles of tequila, then get out there and sell a few more bottles of tequila, my friend, because that's what we care about, the product. We don't care about you know, the bottom line number for your bank account. So
and look at the excitement.
He gets it. He gets it. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the Garden's jammed out every night. Jersey sales are probably through the roof, and I know those are like split, but
well, that's the other thing. You make money in the back end, and when you're a winning team, there's other avenues to make money, right? I'm not saying he's going to make. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'm not going to pretend that I know the benefits and the surplus and all that stuff about those business decisions. But I'm sure they break it all down: playoff ticket sales, all this other stuff, concessions.
And this is probably increasing the value of the team too, right? When the time does come that he wants to cash out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, absolutely. They've got all the good things are going to. And what's it say about? Listen, one of the things I really get tired of hearing all the time. And again, I understand money talks here, but Jrue Holiday obviously has enjoyed his time here in Boston. He said it in the past. He had talking about B-Rob again, expressed his excitement and joy and happiness for being here in Boston and the city, and I think he said falling in love with the city and his teammates. We went through a couple dark seasons, Bobby, where it felt like nobody wanted to play here. Nobody had a damn good thing to say about this organization or the city.
It was time to change the logo.
It's dark time. Yeah, it's time to kill Lucky. Everyone in Boston
That
sucks.
was the funniest debate. We had these dark conversations about where the franchise was going in 2021.
We did.
And we had a full segment
spiraling.
Do they need to change the logo? Is that going to help?
You wanted to. I wanted to murder you as soon as you were like trying to like beat that drum. Like, Bobby, I will end the stream right now if you even bring up that idea. But point being is now, okay. Obviously, Brown's going to sign for that money. They get Brown back. Holiday agrees to the extension. Derrick White's a guy that's loved here. And it sounds like Celtics fans would love to have him, obviously. And, just it's going to come down to process as well. But, like, point being is the things are starting to turn around here. I think the talk about the organization and the overall attitude, the feeling that you get when you walk through the building now and the product that's going out there in the court, you can enjoy watching this team. I think from not only just a Boston sports fan perspective, but if you're an NBA fan, you're starting to see, okay, yeah, these are the Celtics. They're obviously really good. They've got a lot of good things going for them. And so players start to hear that, players around the league notice it, so I felt like there was a little lull there. And now I feel like we're getting back on
Look
track.
at the crowds they're
And
drawing for
Holiday
their
deal is
road
another
games.
example.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing like
Absolutely, they're
Warriors
becoming
stuff.
appointment television, appointment viewing
Yeah,
for a lot of just
it's been
fans who
impressive.
want to see, Tatum or Brown or whoever. But got to give Holiday credit. He's been a silent assassin for many, many, many years. And I
I
think
don't think this
when he
team works without him. Like him guarding bigs, him orchestrating the defense, him spacing on the offensive end and screening and doing whatever else he does, being such a dangerous fifth
yeah,
option. There were a lot of
another thing they
questions
spent
about
on.
this team coming in, and maybe it would have worked anyway. I mean, Porzingis has been that good, and a lot of our questions were about Porzingis. But I
Mhm.
think Jrue brought it all together. That deal, and of course, it was lucky. There was no way to predict it, but it made everything perfect here. I mean, he put them over the edge of being an all-time great team, and you don't get credit for that night in and night out, especially when you're the guy who's sacrificing the most. But look what it gets you on the
Right.
back end here. I mean,
Right.
they
It's
it
not
made
going unnoticed by,
yeah,
the people that really matter to
yeah,
notice it, right? And again, just this came out of nowhere, Bobby. The Jrue Holiday trade was not something that I think anyone ever thought was ever going to happen, right? No one ever thought Jrue Holiday would be in the Celtics because he was on the Bucks, and the Bucks were not going to trade Jrue Holiday to the Celtics. And
right.
yeah, maybe he would have left in free agency, and you know what I mean. But the Celtics wouldn't have been in a position to sign him if he did. So the idea that Jrue Holiday is even on this team was foreign, 6 months ago or however long he's been in the league. No one ever really thought that, especially when you saw what it cost the Bucks to originally trade for him and the money that they invested in him and all that. So this is all like a bonus for us Celtics fans, I feel like, right? I mean, this is something that maybe the Celtics, like you said, if they didn't have Jrue Holiday this year, we're not talking about a team that's 14 games ahead in the standings in first place in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
They would have had Rob Williams, who again, we unfortunately know the deal with him this season. And
What a disaster.
you're not
Those
getting
those
anything
two
in
guys
place
would
of
have
him. Right, exactly. So, yeah, you have Brogdon on your squad, but if we're really going to compare Brogdon and Holiday, of course not. And we already know that appears to have been sounds like there was some sort of riff going on there between what he felt his value or
and that Warriors pick. I mean, you made
was
big
in the
fuss
Warriors
about
pick.
that
Yeah,
Warriors pick, and it's gonna be what, 15? Like it's not
right.
that
And
great.
it's going to be 15, and they're talking about one of the worst drafts. When is that? What year is that pick?
This year.
What years? Yeah, and they're talking about this is one of the worst drafts in how long? In ages.
Probably since
So
Anthony
again,
Bennett.
there you go. So this is all good stuff. And I think again, just like the Celtics had to sign Jaylen Brown, I feel like they had to sign Jrue Holiday. You can't let him go. It's just it would be unacceptable based on where they are right now. They're too good to let it go right now at this time. So they have to do whatever it takes to keep this team together, keep this run going, and they can feel good about where they are now. They can feel good about where they're going to be next season with the band coming back together again. And they've got a good core here. They've got a great core, and that there's no reason to believe that if they can keep this core together and regardless of how things, who knows how things are going to go this year, they're going to be considered just as dangerous next season
Maybe
as they
more
were this season, maybe more. Absolutely. Another
because the
year of
pressure's off, but you gotta
Pritchard and
win now.
Hauser. And yeah, I mean, Joe, speaking of pressure, Missoula went on and on about pressure today on the Sports Hub. Some good quotes there. And, pressure shows itself in different ways and you approach it differently. And there's always pressure. So you say there's no pressure, but I feel like if you're, and I feel like Joe probably feels the same way, there's never not going to be pressure. There's always pressure for whatever the reason is. There's maybe the argument that there's even more pressure next year if you did win, to repeat, prove that it wasn't a fluke, or, pressure to, for the next, again, if you're Derrick White, there's going to be pressure. There's always pressure for certain reasons. But yeah, you want to get that monkey off your back. Absolutely. This is a team that hasn't been able to seal the deal over the last few years with the core of, Tatum and Brown in the middle of it all. They're the common denominator here. And so, yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of pressure on them this season to get that done. But they can feel like they have the pieces around them now that perhaps they never had before.
The team's different, so you're expecting different results this postseason.
Yes, you are.
If you're seeing the same crap as last year, it's going to be infuriating. But I don't think it will be. And what we all want to see, and we did a podcast earlier today in our CLNS studio. Noah and I, you'd love nothing more, as I said there, than to go out and sweep one of these daunting teams or beat them in 5 and just take care of business and show not only other people, but yourself that you're that team that dominated all year and was in a class of its own. And let's be real, Jimmy, if we believe that level of play is going to translate to the playoffs, yeah, you're going to sweep Miami or beat them in 5, and you're going to beat Philly handily too if you play at that level. But can you get there going into the playoffs? Last night kind of stunk. There's been a few slip-ups over the last few weeks, so you're hoping you can regain that level when it's go time. But you did all the work you need. Everything's in place now. There's no excuses at this point other than injuries or whatever else might pop up here. So I'm ready. What we got? 10 days? Playoffs start in 10 days. So we'll see you there.
Plenty of time to talk about it. One thing Jrue Holiday can do now with this big contract is he can head over to pxg.com.
Buy everything on PXG.
/garden. He can buy one of everything on pxg.com/garden, but he can also save 10% doing it. So good for him, because we're going to help him. He needs to help us help him. So Jrue, if you're watching, head over to pxg.com/garden and save 10% on all apparel. I mean, golf season is right upon us. It's third straight day, I think, of 60 degrees here in Boston. So I think people are getting the itch. I think Jrue Holiday could probably buy, or at least contribute to purchasing a golf course somewhere in the New England area. He can golf as long as he wants. And I tell you what, if he wins a championship, he'll never have to pay for a round of golf here in New England for the rest of his life, but he might as well look good doing it. So head over to pxg.com/garden. That's for everybody. Everyone gets this deal. pxg.com/garden. Save 10% on all apparel. PXG, known for their clubs, but they are now in the apparel game.
Good stuff.
And so, yeah, really good stuff. Good high quality. So shout out PXG. And then we can't forget our good friends at Prize Picks, number one fantasy sports app out there. Over 3 million people are playing. You can download the app super easily. Takes about 2 seconds. Prize Picks. Hit the promo code CLNS, and we'll give you 100% deposit match up to $100. You want to go more on less on these guys, you get a list of players that Prize Picks determines a number that they have to either get higher or lower than. If it's baseball, they could be combining, hits, runs, and RBIs. If it's basketball, it could be rebounds, points, assists. It could be a combination of those things. It could just be points. It could just be hits. But it's really fun. You can try to gauge, how you think this player is going to do in this given game, and then depending on how many players you choose, determines the amount that you can win. So really cool app. We've had a lot of fun with it. I've won. No big deal. I have won some decent returns. Yeah, decent picks. So that is our friends at Prize Picks. So again, guys, emergency garden report. Jrue Holiday agrees to a 4-year, $135 million extension with the Celtics. I think we've convinced Bobby. I think he was a little hesitant to start the show. I think he's a little bit happier about it now.
No, I mean, it's very clear, Jimmy. If they can keep White, I'm thrilled. If they have trouble now, I'm like, but that's a year away.
Right. It is a year away. Right now, though, they've positioned themselves again to just continue on, right? Just keep on keeping on.
For one more year, at least.
Yeah. Do they have decisions to make? Absolutely. And I think we owe it to them. We owe it to this front office to trust them at this point, Bobby. I think they've made all some really good moves. Brad Stevens, Zarin, Wick, they've done a number of things over the last 4 or 5 seasons that could have been considered questionable, could have been risky. People weren't so sure of at the time. They let the guys walk that they felt they should have let walk, and they've re-sign the guys that they feel are worth re-signing. Fournier, I didn't want to say it, but I did. Gordon Hayward, another one. And they've got more. And listen, they've got more decisions to make. This isn't the last one, clearly, right? And so I think as far as this one goes, I think both sides are happy tonight. I think Celtics fans should be happy. I think Jrue Holiday is probably out somewhere celebrating, and if he doesn't play tomorrow, well,
he is questionable.
maybe
Everybody's questionable.
he is questionable. I think he's questionable with a hangover tomorrow if he goes out and celebrates the right way tonight. But I think that's it.
I'd like
for
to
us.
see one last.
You want to add?
I'd like to see one last dress rehearsal tomorrow. Sit everybody on Friday against the Hornets. Sit everybody, really everybody. Play like the main Celtics championship encore on Sunday.
Right.
And
Guys, is that a back-to-back for Maine? Yeah.
And then start your practices for the playoffs. I think play-in's Tuesday probably. So yeah, to let tomorrow. I want to see them play one more real game, Jimmy. There's been some awful games recently, just in terms of who's available or how the team plays. You're playing a tough team in the next. You're playing a team that's something to play for, and potentially a team you could see down the line. So I'm hoping it's a full squad tomorrow, but everybody's questionable, so we'll see.
We shall see. You will be there. We know you aren't questionable for this one.
Nope.
Joe Sway's probably going to be there. Sherrod's probably going to be there. We will be live after the game, as we always are. So
you on tomorrow?
I think so. I think I'll
right.
be here. Knicks tomorrow. Hornets Friday. And then you said Wizards Sunday. Ooh, that's going to be ugly. Wizards Sunday. Yikes. Sunday 1:00.
That'll be a season recap show. Probably.
That will be. We'll go over our bold predictions. How about that? Maybe. I'll ask John. John's producer boy, so whatever he says goes. But Amit's the real producer. We want to thank Amit as well for hopping on a moment's notice. We want to thank everybody who joined us for the surprise show. Again, Holiday, 4 years, 135 extension, voids out the last year of his current deal. It's going to take him through age 38 season? Is that accurate? Yes. It sounds like maybe. One of 4 players now to have signed for over $100 million after age 33. So if you have a hesitation, Bobby, that's probably what it is. It's the players who have signed it. LeBron, we said LeBron, Steph, and Horford. So again, not just some guys. Certainly those players, obviously LeBron and Steph are still playing extremely competitive basketball. And, I'll say this really quick, Bobby. Talk to any player in the league, and they have the utmost respect for Holiday, more so than I think fans and media even know sometimes. And that really tells you the mark of a great player is how he's talked about by his peers. And so that's one thing you can be that you could be a little happier or confident about, that the deal is not going to completely backfire, is that players around the league just know how damn good Jrue Holiday is. And I think, this is just another example of people around the NBA realizing that. And good for Jrue Holiday. As for all we know, great guy. Obviously a huge part of what the Bucks did in winning a championship there. And the Celtics want him to bring that same everything about him, bring it here to Boston. And if they can win one, minimum one with it, then I think no one's complaining about this deal.
Yeah, and I just saw the max extension for Holiday was $221. So this does look a little bit better compared to that.
Far cry from that. Absolutely. So that's it for us. Bobby, you said did you have something you wanted to plug? You guys did something earlier today in studio?
Yeah, we did a studio edition of the Garden Report. We're going to start doing it every week now with Noah, where we have some time down there. Noah Delzo from Celtics blog. So look for that every week. It's not going to be the same day, obviously, because it's games and all the rest, but we'll announce at the beginning of the week what day we're going to be putting that out. The first one came out this afternoon. Luckily, it had nothing to do with any of this, so it didn't expire. We were just looking at first-round opponents, talking a little bit about Maine, who's probably about to win a championship, and that's that. Yeah, you can go find that at Celtics All Access.
Awesome, and that is in the CLNS Boston studio. That's right, guys. You're going to be seeing, or you probably have seen, but you'll be seeing a lot more especially in the off season. So a lot more content coming out of our studio over there. So big things. Speaking of paying, Wick's not the only owner paying, Bob. We got Gelso's forking over some cash now too. It's good to see. So it's good to see Gelso not just pocketing it all. And that's what you want.
We weren't
from a
sure
good
if he
owner.
was gonna, but
Gelso is our Wick.
Yeah.
Gelso is our Wick. After enough pressure, we got him to reach into his pockets, and now you've got yourself a nice little studio over there in Boston. So be on the lookout for that stuff. We want to thank everybody again for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow. Where's this outro? Where is it? Here it is. Peace. Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game. Forfeit's out. I think it's an auction. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.